Hey guys, I'm back today with the first video of a new series I want to invest time in, and I'm gonna make a pun by calling that series Art Tea Time. I've come up with the idea as a way for me to acquire more knowledge and to enrich my culture, especially about art, because I know some things, some bits and bobs from art waves and artists and some sculptures and paintings, but my culture is quite limited. So for the moment I want to focus on arts, and perhaps later I'll invest some time in a different topic. Those videos are going to be focused on one work of art each time, and it's going to be about pieces that I've caught interest in, or perhaps it's going to be about pieces that I'm going to get interested in and that I don't know yet. So that's an explanation for the first part of the title, that is artsy. And for the second part of the title, tea time, it's kind of easy. As you might know, tea time is a very important time of the day for a lot of British people, and it's a time when people have very meaningful discussions or more lightweight discussions, and it usually is composed of different sections. Like you have the tea obviously, and you have some portions of sandwiches, and you have scones, you have sometimes it's declined with pastries and stuff. So for the moment, for my videos, I'm only gonna have a tea to show you each time. I really like hot drinks. I love coffee, I love tea, I love chai tea, I love matcha. Most time I go for 3 hot drinks a day. That's a bit crazy, but who knows, perhaps later I'll do like a typical British tea time, and I'll invest in some sweets or treats and salty sandwiches and stuff to replicate the real tea time moment. So yeah, those videos are not going to be very deep and detailed. I'm just going to scratch the surface of works of art that catch my attention and that get my interest. I'm not a connoisseur of any sort. I'm just going to make some research to complete what I know about the works of art I'm going to choose, and I've chosen to show you. So today's focus will be on a 1879 painting by William Bouguereau. That painting is The Birth of Venus. It's a French painting that is currently exhibited in the Musée d'Orsay in Paris, and I've seen it in real life. And as for the tea of the day, in my Disney ball mug, this is a sample actually that I was kindly given in the store. It's called Blue Mountain. It's from the brand Paladiti. It's a black tea with fruity notes of strawberry, and there are flowers in it apparently. I've never tasted it, so I'm gonna tell you eventually what it tastes like and if I like it or not, but I'm not too difficult when it comes to teas. I still have my personal likings, but I'm not too difficult. It smells nice. So why have I chosen that video to start that series, and why do I want to show it to you? Well, as I said just before, it's a painting that I saw in person when I was on a solo trip in Paris a couple of years ago. If you've never been to the Musée d'Orsay, that museum is massive, and it owns many famous paintings and sculptures and works of art from very famous artists. The collection is very wide and has different sections in it of different periods of time and waves. and that museum has a section dedicated to academic paintings. I've come to realise that I really like academic art for its realistic details and for the narratives it shows. And of course you'll see that painting on the screen, but it's absolutely insane to see it in person because it's a massive painting. It's huge. It's like 3 meters high and 2 meters large, so it's way more impressive to see it face to face painting. In that section of the museum, it clearly was the painting that stood out to me. And when I finished visiting the museum, I went to the souvenir shop and I got a card, a miniature version of that painting on a postcard, and it's currently on my wall. That's how much I love that painting. I love the self-confidence of Venus that stands in the middle. She radiates with self-esteem and with, yeah, she has such a vibrant energy and a assured energy. She clearly is the moment. She clearly is the star of the painting here, and all the persons around her, whether it be the nymphs or the centaurs or the angels, are almost all looking at her and are quite jealous of her self-confidence. Well, at least that's how I have interpreted that painting, because of course, you know, Venus is supposed to be the epitome of beauty according to some standards, of course, but in that painting I feel like all the persons are beautiful. So the only difference is between the Venus and all the other persons is the difference is self-confidence, perhaps inner value, inner worth, because your inner self radiates a lot around you in some way. On top of that, I always had an interest in mythology, in Greek and Roman mythology. For the moment, I don't really know anything about other mythologies. Like, I don't know anything about the Norwegian mythology, or yeah, from other countries and other cultures. When I was in uni in my first year, I had a course dedicated to Greek mythology, Roman mythology, and we were taught the basis of where it all starts. Like, you know, it starts with, I might say something wrong, but it starts with the creation of the world in the Greek point of view and the Roman point of view. According to them, it starts with like a goddess that's very powerful, and I'm not sure that it's Gaia or something. I'm not sure that it's Gaia. But anyway, there's a family tree starting somewhere, and there are many myths that sprung from that family tree, and that course was very interesting, and it was a starting point for me, for my interests. It definitely sparked my interest a lot. So let's start first with a simple, basic visual description of the painting. There's Venus standing on a shell in the middle, and all around her you can see nymphs and centaurs, and there are some baby angels as well. She's on the sea because she's supposed to be traveling to a country. As I said, she clearly is the icon here. She clearly is the center of attention, of all attentions. And when I made my research, I found out that there's a CK in the background, as well as Cupid. I didn't really notice Cupid, but it's obvious now because he has the bow. So Venus is on a shell and she's pulled around by dolphins, and dolphins are said to be her totem animals, or dolphins are often associated with Venus. Before making the research on that painting for that video, I did not really notice the dolphins because they are quite dark, and let me try to see from afar. Yeah, they're quite dark, but you can see the tail of the dolphins, but they look quite small for dolphins. That tea is really good, and black tea sometimes are too strong. This one is quite softened by the flowers and the strawberry. Actually, you know what? I should get the bag out, otherwise it's gonna get too sour. Oh no, it's not sour. Don't know the word. It's gonna get too strong and too bitter. That's it. The colors are very soft. There's a majority of softness because most people, like all the people, are nudes. So you have nude colors everywhere, and you have blues. Yeah, that's basically it. It's a majority of blues and nudes shades. I've also seen by making the research that apparently you can see the silhouette of the painter in the background in the clouds, so that's very uncommon. Now let's go beyond the surface and go into details a bit more about everything around that painting and the context, and yeah, some interesting things we can mentioned here. As you've seen, or as I said, it's depicting Venus, but not actually the birth of Venus, because it should be a baby on the painting. It's like the transportation of Venus from one piece of Earth to another one. I can't remember the name of the sea or where she goes to on the shell. If you don't know the myth, I'll let you make the research yourself because it's a bit far-fetched. She's supposed to be born from the god Uranus and Gaia, but it's a bit more complicated than that, and she's born from the sea form. If you know a bit about Greek mythology, you know that there's a lot about weird events and weird relationships and weird sexual relationships. So that's why I said that I'll let you make your research about how Venus is conceived and how she's born, because it's a bit intense and particular. Venus is a goddess that has always fascinated people and artists, whether that be painters, sculptors, is that a word? Sculpture artists, or in our days, musicians and pop stars even, or photographers even. But before Bouguereau's painting, there was a very famous painting that was done by Botticelli, and it was in the 15th century, if I'm right. I'm sure that you've seen that painting somewhere at some point. It's a very famous painting. and it's a different representation of Venus, but it's quite similar for the shell, and yeah, it's one of the similarities between Botticelli's version and Bouguereau's version. And both Venuses are adult, they're not babies, even though the paintings are called Birth of Venus. It's depicting Venus as in a adult age. According to mythology, Venus is the goddess of beauty, of fertility, of victory and other things, and that's why people have often chosen her as the symbol of beauty in art and stuff. I feel like people have always been fascinated by appearances and what perfect beauty looks like. So that's why Venus is something that has often come up in art and culture. Botticelli's version is the starting point of, I was about to say millions, but not millions, tons of works of art, tons of representations and versions of the myth and of Venus, because obviously we all have different versions of what beauty is supposed to look like, and beauty standards are always evolving like a trend, unfortunately. So yeah, and mindsets are evolving as well. So what was thought to be perfection at the time certainly changed throughout the centuries and the years, and now I'm glad that it's evolved now, and that beauty is not restricted to a certain category, a certain type of women and a certain silhouette and skin color. And yeah, there's Eros in the background with the bow, because in the myth she's supposed to be the mother of Eros and other people. That's why he's on the painting. Now moving on to academism. What is it? So it's a wave of art that was massive in the mid-19th century, if my research is correct. William Bouguereau's paintings, more generally, were major parts of academism, and Bouguereau was one of the masters of that wave. Academism is a style of paintings and sculptures that was born in Europe. It mostly sprung from academies, schools, art schools. It was all about the precision of details, being as true to real life as possible. It was almost intellectual, and artists really were studying human bodies and lines of the human bodies and lines of objects, buildings, animals. Academism is recognizable for its historical, mythological themes and oriental themes, apparently. And as I said before, for its extremely realistic drawings. But it's not about realism, because I've seen that realism is a different thing, is a different wave. The works of art depicted an idealized version of reality. It was a bit softened in some way. It was a bit more delicate and a bit more glorious than real life, what really could happen. If we compare academic paintings with other waves of art, the colours are a bit more dull and a bit more neutral than what we can see in other waves of paintings, like with Impressionism, for instance. That is a bit more punchy with its colors. In comparison, realism is more realistic in its themes and depictions. It's less glorious, it really shows reality as it is, whereas academic art is more about glory and emphasizing the beauty of things with realistic details. That's the difference, I think. William Bouguereau was a master in this genre, as well as Alexandre Cabanel. I think that he's the guy who did the very famous painting with the fallen angel that you've probably seen somewhere at some point. And there was also Lawrence Alma Tadema, who was a star as well in this genre. Now moving on to the last part of that video, that is the aftermath of that painting and the cultural impact it had. Bouguereau's version is one of many versions of how Venus is supposed to look like and how people see Venus in their imagination. His version of Venus is very delicate, is very confident, is white. Today, she's still a focus for many artists, but not painters. Not necessarily painters or sculpture artists, sculptors, yeah, that's a word. Because, for instance, pop stars like Lady Gaga or Beyonce have made many references to the symbolism of Venus in their own ways, and I think that that's genius. For instance, Beyonce has shown that the original depiction of a white Venus is quite sad, and nowadays many people are revisiting the original version of Venus, like, you know, the white woman with a perfect silhouette. I feel like people have only kept the original self-esteem of Venus and of course the underneath symbolism of beauty, love, victory, fertility, but they are making their own versions of Venus to show that it really is something subjective, and many people and many genres can be Venuses. You can be a Venus regardless of your skin color, regardless of your silhouettes. So that's very helpful and something I really like about modern depictions of Venus. There's also a painting by Ying Xin from 2008 that I find genius as well. I'll show it to you. There were some brands that used that symbol of Venus for their ads apparently, and many other things have revisited the Venus symbol and myth. I love that now Venus is used as a way more inclusive symbol, that it's more generally used as a symbol of women empowerment and self-esteem, and I love that it's debunking beauty standards. So that's it for today's rambling. I hope that you've learned a couple of things, and perhaps you didn't even know about Bouguereau's painting, about academism. So I'm glad if you've enriched your knowledge a bit more. I'll try to insert some links in the description box if you've time to make more research, or if you're curious about things I've said, and if you're curious about mythology as well. I'll advise you to make your research, and nowadays you have podcasts about mythology, about art. You have many different platforms to enlarge your personal knowledge. Well, I wish you a great end of the day, a great night, and I'll see you in a future video, a future arts tea time. Goodbye.